Hey guys, kia ora, whakalofa lahi atu, and welcome back to this week's podcast episode. I am, I'm trying not to say it, but I am so excited to get into today's podcast episode. I need to come up with a different adjective. So if you have a different adjective for me, let me know. But I love excited. I'm so excited to get into today's episode. We are still on the relationship series, and we're at episode number 4 for the relationship series. And this one's all about heartbreak. And I think I'm going to dive a little bit into thinking like, should I leave him? Should I leave her? Is this relationship good? And I think it'll be it won't be a deep dive. It'll just be a little bit of a dive, a shallow dive, not a deep dive. But I think it's so important because I see and I've witnessed so many relationships, and I've been in relationships before, and I've seen relationships. I'm currently if you know, you know, but there's like a TikTok lady who's going viral, Mesa Tessa or Tessa Mesa, and she talks about who the fuck did I marry, because she just went through this tragic and traumatic relationship experience where she didn't even know the guy who she freaking married, and she talks about all the red flags that kind of happened along the way, and she knew that they were red flags, and she had these gut feelings, and she knew, there were lies and stuff like that, but then she was worrying like, oh, we just got married. What will people think of me if we don't? If we break up? And she has this rule like, what happens in the house stays in the house and stuff like that. So she didn't tell outside people what was going on and stuff like that. And I haven't watched the whole thing, but that was kind of like the overview of it, and I just wanted to kind of bring up those certain points. So if you're currently in a relationship and you've ever had this feeling, or the red flags and the gut feelings and stuff like that, I urge you to pay attention to those. If there's a red flag, dive deep into it. What's the red flag? What is it? Is he lying? Is he, whatever, lying? Really get to the depths of it and stuff like that, because the red flags, those gut feelings, they're there for a reason. So don't pass them. Don't not look into them, right? So that's my first thing, is to look into those things. And I always say, like, if you're on the verge, or you're thinking, should I leave this person? I want you to think about someone close to you, a loved one. You might have a daughter, a best friend, your sister, brother, whoever, anyone around you. Would you want them to be in that relationship that you're in? Would you be happy if they were in the relationship, or the type of relationship that you have? Would you be happy for them? And I think that's the answer. And a lot of people are like, oh no, but I don't want to leave because I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be lonely. And that goes back to the first episode we did, relationship with self. Why can't you be alone with yourself? Do you even know yourself? Have you spent time with yourself? Why are the reasons that you don't want to be alone? Building yourself up. What does it mean to be alone? What's the reason? It means I'm a sad person. It means I'm the lonely cat lady. It means that my family and that's going to pressure me to find somebody, and that's all I'm going to hear about. So, okay, then what can you do? You can sit down, your parents and all of them, and be like, hey, please don't comment on my relationship status. You can change the thought that I'm alone, but I'm having fun. I'm enjoying it. I'm alone, but I'm working on myself. Why do you not want to be alone with yourself? That's a red flag in itself. Really pay attention to that. And then also it's like, oh, but we have kids together. I'm going to stay because, for the kids. And I'll tell you right now, as a kid with parents who I thought for so long needed to break up, I would dream and wish that they would break up because their relationship was just so toxic. So your kids know what's going on. Your kids probably think the same. I wish mum and dad would just break up. I wish they would, put us all out of our misery so we don't have to listen to the fighting and the domestic violence and the nagging all day and the toxic, and the shitty communication and the slamming of doors and the physical, emotional, all the kind of abuse, right? They know that you're not happy. They can sense it. They can feel the energy. They know the environment that they're in. So you're probably going to do a favor to them to leave that and create a household where you are happy, where the energy is great, and show them what a fucking great household looks like, setting that example. And easier said than done, I know, but start working yourself up. Start making moves to let that be okay. That you can move out and you can do all these things. You should do it for your kids so that they have a better life, right? But I think at the end of the day, when you should leave. If you're unhappy, more often than not, if you're unhappy, you should leave. Doing a list of pros and cons. What's the pros of being in this relationship? What's the cons? If the cons outweigh the pros, another reason. Have you tried to work on it? And if you haven't, maybe it's okay. I'll try work on it. And if you have, and you know that it's still not working, also, maybe you need to leave. Do you even want to work on it? Is it so far gone? You're just out of love. You're just like, yo, I need to go. I need to leave. So I think, yeah, when your values aren't on the same path, when the communications break down and you feel like you can't recover from it, or you've tried to recover, if there's infidelity, if there's any type of abuse, stuff like that, I would encourage you to leave. But also, yourself, right? When it's time to go. I can never, and I've tried in the past to help people leave relationships before they're ready to. And you can't want it more than somebody else. And that goes for people who are trying to help people get out of relationships as well. You can't want it more than them. They're on their own journey and they have to come to realize that it's not okay to be in that relationship and to leave. Because sometimes you get caught up in it and you get hurt more than anything else, speaking from experience. So it's up to that person to make the move, to decide that they're ready to leave. You can obviously be there for support if they do decide that they want to leave, but you can't want it for them. And that's for anything in life, really. I also think there's a point where you need to work on worrying about what other people think of you, right? If you're leaving this relationship and you're like, oh, my friends are going to be like, I told you so. My family's going to be like, she's single again. She can't hold down a relationship. I'm going to go into my community spaces and they're going to be like, that's the girl that this, that, the other. It's like, fuck what they think. Who gives a fuck? Stop worrying about what other people think before worrying about yourself and your safety and your happiness and all the things. It's like, put that shit first. Who gives a fuck what they think? They're probably in fucking miserable lives themselves. They need to focus on their lives. They're too busy out there focusing on yours. So who gives a fuck? Start putting your happiness first. So don't worry about that shit. And I know everything's easier said than done, but it's a practice and you need to do it, and it might feel hard. But that's the reason why there's people like me, coaches. There's these spaces where you can get help and you can get that support. So look into these spaces. Look into family and friends who might be able to help you. Look into coaches, therapists. There's lots of resources out there where you can be helped. So asking for help, for support. Awesome. Now let's talk about heartbreak. And heartbreak is it's a crazy thing. I wish it upon nobody, but sometimes it happens, and it probably will happen at least once in your lifetime. And I remember when I got my heart broken, and it feels like physical pain. Obviously there's the emotional aspect, but you actually physically feel like your heart is breaking. And apparently it is your emotions feel so heavy that it actually turns into physical pain as well. It's like you can't kind of handle it. There's all the science about it. I'm not really good at reiterating science facts and shit like that, but it is a emotional and a physical pain that you feel. And it's fucking hard. And when you go through heartbreak, I think it's important that you allow yourself time to grieve. You've just left this relationship, no matter how long it is. Some women are like, oh, it's only been 3 months, but fuck, it hurts. And I'm like, I don't like, it doesn't matter how long. It could be a month, it could be a week, but heartbreak's heartbreak. Like, if you feel that type of way, please allow yourself to grieve. Please be kind to yourself. That's the most important time, to be kind to yourself in moments like these. So allow yourself time to grieve. And I remember when I went through my first heartbreak, I was literally like, I felt like I was going to die. Like, it was so painful. And you might be like, dramatic, but I don't give a fuck. I was a teenager, but it fucking hurt. And I reached out to help, out for help. I remember messaging my mum and being like, Mum, can you come in the room? Like, it fucking hurts. I need someone to talk to before this just gets too tragic. Because you're in your head as well. You're like, what the fuck is, you're thinking about your future. There's anxiety. You're like, oh my gosh, it's so much pain. And you're just like in shock almost. And there's also stages of, I guess, like heartbreak stages. And the first one actually is shock, or that denial. You can't accept what has happened. It's just a huge shock to your body. So that's one of the stages. Then you have the anger and blame. So you're like out there blaming, getting angry for everything. Why did it have to end? All the things, right? And then you go to like a what if? Oh, but what if this happened? If this happened instead, it's like you're backtracking. What if, should I go back? All the things, that's the next stage. And then there's the depression and isolation, where you really go intensely into anxiety and worrying about what the future holds. And then the last one is actually the best, and it's when you accept it and you move forward and you go on. So those are the stages. Not saying that you're going to go through all of them, and some might last longer than others, or you might skip one or whatever. But there is that initial shock, and it's the denial and what the fuck just happened, and it's the hurt. And I went on a fucking binge, like, for I was numbing out, I was partying, I was smoking, I was drinking, I was doing all the things, right? I was trying to get, how they say, get over one guy, you get under another, like all those kinds of things. I was doing that, and those were really, really unhealthy habits. And I learned so much from it. But I would recommend to create healthy habits. If that's happening, go through the grieving stage, but try to create healthy habits for you to get through it. Whether that be meditating, creating some breath work, journaling, getting all your thoughts out onto paper, clearing that mind, really getting in touch and connecting to yourself. So there's some healthy habits. You might want to book in times with friends, in your routines, or going on walks, getting out into nature and stuff like that. Really creating a routine where you've got things that light you up and make you feel good, and all the things like that. Also reaching out for help, always. Friends, family, hey, can we chat? Something's happened, or can you just support me when I feel shit? Like, can we go for a walk? All the things. See a therapist, a coach, stuff like that, if you do need that kind of help. And I think really creating boundaries with, your ex-partner, especially if you have kids, you might have to keep seeing them. So it's creating those boundaries with them once you have broken up. What are the boundaries? For you, it's probably like, oh, I can't have contact, or just come pick up the kids and leave. Or you might, if you don't have kids, I'm just going to block you off everything. I just need you out of my life. And a lot of people are like, oh, I'm still friends with my ex, but I feel like there's a part in it where you kind of do need to go no contact for a bit, because you need to learn to live life without them. And then maybe down the track, if you want to be friends, I think that would be fine. But sometimes it's really hard when you're friends straight away and you're trying to get over them, but they're still in your lives and all things. So that's just my personal preference, would be to go no contact and block them and all the things. Obviously, when you end a relationship, you want to end on good terms if you can. Sometimes you don't always end on good terms, and that's also okay. But if you can, that's awesome. Set those boundaries up. I can't see you anymore, or please just come pick up the kids and leave. Don't talk to me, just so I can get over it. Stuff like that, right? And knowing that healing takes time. We're on this like, oh, I just want to feel good again. Honestly, when I had my first heartbreak, it took me years to get over it. Years. And that was because there was a lot of numbing out and stuff like that. Over time, I was just numbing out. I wasn't really dealing with it. But it really took me years to get over this guy. So just, having or taking that time to heal from the pain, from someone not being in your life anymore, it's going to take time. Everything takes time. So allow it to take time and don't put pressure on yourself to just get over it. It's like, know that self-compassion, right? And I would recommend to do the self-compassion or self-care, self-compassion. I have, and you might go back to my podcast. I have a podcast all about self-compassion. And yeah, there's some practices in there that I think will really, really help you. And I think this is a beautiful time to set new goals, in this new life of yours where you are alone. Maybe you do all the things you thought you couldn't do in that relationship. You spend more time with self. You learn about self. You go traveling, you go do all these things. So I think it's a beautiful time to set new goals, set new dreams and aspirations, and set new healthy habits, set a whole new kind of life, really. And you can look back and see what you learned from it. Sometimes there's lots of beauty in the ending of any type of relationship, but a romantic relationship as well. What are the lessons learned? What would you love from your next relationship? What did you love in that relationship that you would love to attract in a new person? What didn't you love? What would you like instead? What are all the lessons from it as well? And you might do this a little bit later down the track, not so much when it's fresh, but learning lessons from it, right? That's also a beautiful thing. So yeah, heartbreak is a hard thing. And if you are currently going through it, or you're thinking of leaving and you're worried about it and all the things, please, I'm here if you want to reach out. There's so many amazing people out there. There's a lot of people on social media who document their breakup and stuff like that. So just getting around people like that, seeing what they're doing, what works, maybe having a chat to them. It's good to have somebody who's going through it as well, who can support you. But reaching out to, professionals as well, family and friends, please reach out to someone. You don't have to do it alone. And you can reach out to me as well. I would love to support you. But I send you all the love during this trying time, whether you're about to leave a relationship or you are in, that heartbreak phase. You've ended a relationship, whatever it is. Big love to you. And yeah, I love you. Thank you so much for listening. And I'll see you next week. Ka kite.